Welcome everyone to Big Bang Radio 89.1 FM. I am here today with Young Lee from the Soonest.
Hi, how's it going?
We're going to get right into the questions here. First one, how would you define your style of music?
It's it's funny how that's like the hardest question to ever answer.
And I opened with it, right?
Yeah. I think we're like a mesh of a lot of different things. A little bit of post rock, ambient. We get compared to bands like Interpol a lot, mostly I think because of my voice. But mostly like dense instruments, a lot of guitars, bass, kind of intricate stuff, always working together. A lot of loud and soft moments. So whatever that means to people, that's kind of what I view it as.
Well, you're not alone. I find that a lot of artists have a difficult time labeling their
Yeah,
music style. So but most people just say they get in the studio, they create, and that's what it is.
kind of
So
how it is. Yeah, you really only that's what comes out is what comes out. So.
right, right. So what is your greatest influence to your sound?
There's a lot. I grew up as a kid. I grew up listening to a lot of hardcore bands, and then I started getting really into like very slow-moving ambient music, and then maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I started to dive deeper into just different genres of music. So bands like The National were a huge influence on me. Just kind of showed me that I could not have a traditionally good voice and make it work. Bands like Sigur Rós are also a huge influence on how to do instruments. Um, Listen to a lot of bands like Grizzly Bear, Local Natives, just to get an idea of like how harmonies are done. There's a really great band called Elbow that I listen to, and I love the melodies that he does. So it's kind of all over the place, but yeah, those are the biggest ones. I think people that have interesting melodies and then just harmonize it really well.
Okay, very cool. You threw out some names there that I didn't recognize, so I'm going to have to check those out myself. I've
Yeah.
never
Those
heard
bands.
of Elbow, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Elbow's great. They should be a lot bigger than they are,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I love them.
Well, maybe we can get in touch and play some of their tracks here at our station. When did you realize you had a love for music and wanted to pursue that?
Music has always been part of my life. My mom taught me piano when I was 5, and I did piano, violin, and then in college I started playing in bands, and that kind of really just did it for me. It went from just being a hobby to like something that I was really passionate about, and then I worked for a while, played in bands on the side, and then 5, 6 years ago decided that I wanted to pursue it. So here
So
I
we
am.
can, so we can give thanks to mom, right?
Yeah. I didn't appreciate it at the time. She had she was very persistent on me practicing all the time, and I hated it at first, but now I really appreciate it.
So mom
So
knows best.
yeah.
So where did you grow up? And do you think that where you grew up influences your sound?
I grew up mostly in the South. I spent most of my life. We moved around a lot as a kid, but I spent most of my life as in Marietta, Georgia. Um, and I don't know. I I think there was a lot of influences with the rock part of things. Just being in Georgia and being close to Athens, where a ton of great bands were coming out. REM was just like a household name. Um, so I think it did have an influence. I can't say exactly how, but even now, when I hear some bands from that are coming out of my hometown or coming out of Georgia, I feel like we share a connection in terms of the sounds that we like. So there's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's something.
You lost your accent. You don't have a southern accent
Yeah,
anymore.
got a southern accent.
Do you ever visit Georgia?
Yeah, my family's still there. My
Okay.
brother My brother lives there. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. So I go back. I try to go back at least once a year or so. It's a bit of a trek from San Francisco,
Yeah.
but gotta make it back.
Does your accent come out when you?
I mean, when I go home, I start saying things like y'all a little bit
There you
more.
go.
I mean, at this point, I've been in San Francisco for a little bit longer now than I lived in Atlanta. So, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely start going back to old habits once you
Oh
go back.
yeah, I'm sure. So the Soonest is a project that allows you to put stories to your sound. Could you go into some detail about that?
Yeah, I mean, mainly when I write songs, I don't I don't feel like I have that much in my life that is that interesting for me to talk about. You know, I think I live a pretty comfortable life, so it's just like when I write songs, I try to think of them as stories, and I really like the aspect of storytelling in songs. My favorite bands, they always have like lyrics, or they always have concepts that are very story based. So for the Soonest, every song that I write kind of either tells a story on its own, or with this particular album, it's not necessarily following a story to completion, but it does center around a story that I had in my mind that I feel like was an interesting one to tell. Pulls on some personal things, but it's mostly just I like to think of it as storytelling.
And your lyrics really do read like the pages of a book. They really do. It's
Yeah,
excellent. I know that has to be difficult. I mean, you've surpassed the difficulty level of songwriting by itself. So kudos for that. It really is, really, really is awesome.
I know what you're doing here, walking by from side to side.
say that each person that you've worked with in the Soonest has shaped your sound. How so?
So the Soonest as a band or as an idea, we've been doing it for a while. The drummer that is on the recording and I have been playing together for about 11 years. And we together, like, we kind of grew our own like musical identity together. And then we started adding different people. A lot of people came in and out as they do when you first start a band. And I think we were very lucky in that we got a lot of musicians that understood what we wanted to do, but also came from very different standpoints. The bassist on the record is very into jazz, also very into kind of like your more like traditional like hard rock kind of stuff. And then the guitarist Mark on the record also was very into more kind of intricate guitar work that I wasn't as good at doing myself. And so when we started writing the songs together and kind of fleshing it out, it became very different from my original idea when I first brought the songs over. And so if you listen to the demos that I recorded myself compared to what they are now, they're completely different songs. And there's all these like small little influences that I wouldn't have been able to do myself.
I got you. That must be pretty cool, hearing the sound of the Soonest evolve as members go and come.
Yeah. It's part of the fun. And like especially now too, we have a few new guys playing with me as part of the live band, and even their interpretation of what they hear on the record, and sometimes when we try to put together a set, their ideas and the way that they get the sounds out sounds slightly different from how it is in the recordings. And I feel like, again, the songs evolve a little bit. I mean, the core of the idea is still there, but it just keeps changing, which I think is important with the music.
Yeah. So your music was actually featured in a documentary about Japanese denim. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a weird melding, just combination of the worlds that exist in. I work in fashion, working with Japanese denim, and I happened to meet this guy that was doing a documentary about it. And what was cool was that he not only wanted the Soonest songs, but he wanted a soundtrack to it. And I took on the project and did the whole soundtrack from beginning to end. Most of the stuff on there is original stuff that we've never released as the Soonest. It's a little bit different. It's more ambient. Definitely, there's like no drums. There's very little. There's no vocals actually whatsoever. So it's very instrument heavy. Which was a really fun project because that's something that I've always wanted to do.
Did you break out the violin for that?
I didn't. I wanted to, but I couldn't figure out how to record it in a way that didn't sound weird. I think in the next project, I'm trying to get onto another film project. I definitely have my violin and plan on renting some other, maybe some other instruments and getting that on there if I can figure it out.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah. We'll see.
So your latest album is titled Doors to the City. What was your inspiration for the tracks on that album, and do you have a favorite?
So Doors to the City is kind of, and actually in Undone Summer, one of the tracks on this on the album, there I make references to like doors, and the idea behind the whole album is that there's a guy who's able to go back and revisit important moments of his life, and how he is able to go back is through a series of entering through doors, and each door kind of leads to like a different part of his life. In my mind, it was like it was all occurring in this one city, so that's why there's Doors to the City. And yeah, I mean that's kind of the inspiration behind all the tracks. Each track it's in my mind, it's less like telling the exact story, but it's more of like the soundtrack to those specific moments, whether it's the thought process that that person was going through, or just describing the moments that's going on. As far as favorite tracks, I think White Tables is my favorite one. It was actually the first song. It's actually the oldest song. We actually released it on the EP, our EP before this, about 3 years ago, and that was a song that kind of set the tone for the record. really set the bar, I think, for us when we're writing the next few songs of like, we want songs that have this kind of feel and this kind of arrangement as White Table. So for me, that's kind of the original and still a favorite.
That was one that stuck out to me as well on the album. I like that one as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So without further ado, let's let our listeners hear White Tables from the Soonest.
Today we fell in love, taking even steps with circles in our eyes. We're far from the birds. Do we take our time and slowly choose our words? Say that my bitter tongue grows stranger every day. It's best when I'm lost, shaking empty graves much harder than I thought. Tell my eager heart that my greedy head wants a lot more now. My hands instead. Tell my eager heart that my greedy head wants a lot more now from my humble hand. So we talk of white tables and wine. So we talk of white tables and wine. The waves seem lighter than till I found those gaps beneath my skin. Sit and wait for the birds, carefully nod our heads into a blur. Tell my eager heart that my greedy head wants a lot more now for my hands instead. Tell my eager heart that my greedy head wants a lot more now from my humble hands. So we talk of white tables. Please be careful not to spill the wine. So we talk of white tables. Please be careful not to spill the wine. So we talk of white tables. So we talk of white tables. So we talk of love, so we talk of wine, white tables in the winter time. So we talk of love, so we talk of wine, white tables in the winter time. So we talk of love, so we talk of wine, white tables. desert time.
Do you have any rituals or requirements when writing music that aid in the process?
I don't know if they're necessarily rituals, but every time I write a song, or how I write a song, if it kind of goes in this format of, I'm either on the guitar or sometimes on piano, mostly on guitar, and come up with the melodies and some of the structure, and then I bring it to the guys, and we kind of play through it and kind of get a feel of how it works, and we do a lot of just like trial and error on different parts, trying to see if we can make things a little bit different. And for me, the biggest thing is that I don't write lyrics until the very end. So for all the songs, for most of their lives that we were playing them, I didn't actually have lyrics, and I was just either making up random sounds or repeating like 3 or 4 words over and over again until we get into the recording process and I start actually writing the lyrics. So actually some of the guys didn't know what the words were until we finished recording. So it was kind of a mystery for all of us, but that's kind of how I always approach things. Melody and instruments are always first, and then lyrics come last for me.
So since your lyrics are kind of like a story, you like to tell a story, do you start with an emotion that you want to portray first with the music and then the lyrics come, or how does that work?
The music dictates what the lyrics are going to be like. I try not to think about too much about the story. I mean, a lot of times the story is very loose in my mind, so like anything could really go. But I really want the music to stand on its own first, and then the lyrics kind of accompany it and make it, either better or hopefully not worse, but better. So I mean, if the song itself is a little bit darker, that kind of puts me in more of like, that kind of mindset, and I think the lyrics reflect that. If it's a little bit more upbeat, then I try to make the lyrics reflect that as well.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So what are your current projects? Are you working on new music now?
What's funny is that these songs on the album for us, or at least for me, are almost 2 years old now. So they're pretty old, and I've been playing them for a while. So I've been demoing a lot of new stuff. Nothing that we've been ready to release just yet. And then I also have another band called There's Talk. It's a very different idea. It's a 3-piece, more electronic influenced. And so we've been working on an EP for that one. We just finished recording and mastering it. And then for me, I still work on soundtracking some stuff. So we have a lot of different projects. My guys currently in the band also play in a lot of other bands. So everybody's always working on something. But as for the Soonest, I mean, we're just going to play some shows and then, start writing the next one.
Okay. Well, speaking of members, do you have any new members of the Soonest?
Yeah. So the recording of the album actually was a little bittersweet because that marked the end of the 4 of us working together as a band. Everybody ended up just having to leave the Bay Area, San Francisco area for, either jobs or for, other opportunities. So now the band outside of me is completely new. I was lucky that I have a bunch of friends who either knew people or were willing to, learn the songs and wanted to play with me. So, everybody is new except for me.
Well, that'll be interesting. It'll make a fresh journey. I mean, Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that'll be exciting to see what comes from the melding of the minds there, all new members.
Yeah. I mean, I think with this group of guys, when we start working the next stuff, it's going to sound a little bit different just simply because it's a different group of guys.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. So this question is a little different. Good, bad, or embarrassing? What has been your most memorable experience so far on your journey as an artist?
I think anytime I think about when I first started playing music, and this isn't with the Soonest, because my first band in college, we played some very questionable gigs. on people's porches. We played a hog roast for a few years in a row. I think one of the funniest experiences was playing a show on campus, and then in the middle of the set having to announce like 50% off hot dogs for the next 20 minutes. Yeah, so that's probably, I mean, I don't know, less embarrassing, more just like, I can't believe we did that, and it's pretty hilarious. And I think memorable stuff is just, playing gigs at venues that I had gone to a ton as just to watch a show, and now getting to go on stage and playing them. And then getting feedback from a lot of artists that I really admire, who have just who actually listen to it when I send them an email and then give me some positive feedback, which was pretty wild.
Oh yeah, I know, that's amazing. But the moments with the hot dogs and stuff like that, you can look back on that and see how far you've come. Plus, you'll never look at hot dogs the same way again.
Yeah, and I think now we kind of set a bar of how low we want to go. So if we're gonna play something where there's hot dogs, we just have to say we're not going to announce 50% hot dogs.
There you go. So what's the best way for fans to keep in touch and keep track of what's going on with the Soonest?
I mean, I'm pretty active now on social media. So I mean, pretty much anywhere you can find me. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, email. I love email. Email's the easiest thing for me. I think I sound like an old guy, but social media is still kind of it's a newer thing for me when I'm talking about like doing band stuff. So email is always great, but anywhere else, if you message me, I'll find it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Young, for your time today, for speaking with us here at Big Bang Radio. We, of course, wish you all the best in the future, and we can't wait to hear any new creations that you come up with. Make sure to keep us in the loop and stay in touch, okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. All right, have a good one. All
right, bye.
All right, bye-bye.